Human diplomat. Woke up with the alien attendant on top of him. Her excuse was convincing. Jace awoke in his cabin aboard orbital platform Helios 9, senses snapping into clarity even before his eyes opened. There was an unfamiliar, intimate pressure across his chest, a weight not entirely physical and yet inescapably present. The low blue glow of the emergency lights limned the room in cool shadows. Above him, Syrah straddled his torso, her hands braced on either side of his shoulders. Her black hair fell forward in a curtain, obscuring her eyes, but not the elegant blade-sharp line of her jaw or the subtle curve of her lips, half challenge, half secret. The air was thick with the sterile scent of cleanser, laced with something wilder and more elemental, a mineral tang, the promise of ozone before a storm. Jace lay perfectly still, calling on years of diplomat's training to mask his startled thrum of adrenaline. The proximity was almost clinical, almost. There was no mistaking the tension in the set of her shoulders, the careful way she held her weight off his ribs. The silence between them was intimate and strange, filled with the persistent mental static he'd felt since his arrival on Helios 9. This close, the sensation was a dense, buzzing field along his nerves, making his skin prickle beneath the fabric of his sleep shirt. Syrah looked up at last. Her gold eyes glowed faintly in the blue light, unreadable and luminous, like molten metal seen through smoke. Her crimson skin caught the illumination, the color deepening at the curve of her cheekbone. Her voice was low, melodic, precise. "Remain still. I am realigning your life field." Jace's breath left him in a slow, controlled exhale. "Does this procedure normally require such proximity?" he asked, striving for wry humor, but the words came out soft, uncertain. Syrah's posture did not waver. Physical alignment enhances resonance. The process must be uninterrupted. Her tone was even, almost detached, but her hands pressed a fraction more firmly into the mattress, anchoring herself and, perhaps, him. A ripple of vulnerability slipped through the charged air. The silence stretched, growing dense with questions unasked, with the thrum of two heartbeats keeping time in the hush. Jace studied her, searching for any break in her composure, some clue as to her intentions. Instead, a sudden mental image burst across his mind. A crimson starship, elegant and alien, tumbling weightless in a gulf of endless dark. He gasped, the vision gone as quickly as it arrived, leaving him breathless and shaken. For a single heartbeat, surprise flickered in Syrah's eyes, quick and raw, like a secret exposed. Then the psychic pressure faded, slipping away from his consciousness like a tide receding from shore. He lay there, unsettled, wary, and, though he would not admit it, deeply intrigued. Syrah stood in a single fluid motion, smoothing her utilitarian black attire over her hips, her composure settling back into place with the ease of practiced habit. The atmosphere between them had changed, irrevocably. Something fragile and uncertain now hung in the air. Jace felt it like a new negotiation beginning, wordless and layered, not for treaties or trade agreements, but for the boundaries of a partnership neither of them had chosen. Days passed with a heightened sense of watchfulness. Jace, ever the analyst, dug into her records with a diplomat's thoroughness. The files were immaculate, perhaps too immaculate, as if scrubbed of any trace of ordinary error or oversight. He constructed subtle tests, decoy files seeded with false data, tempting traps for a spy or saboteur. Syrah handled them with brisk efficiency, organizing and cataloging, but never accessing, never betraying even a flicker of interest. She was flawless, almost mechanically so. No ordinary operative, he thought, watching the fluid, precise movements of her hands, the way her fingers seemed to cut through the holographic interfaces like dancers. Each time she entered his quarters, the air sharpened, tinged with that peculiar ozone-like scent that marked her presence. One evening, As the artificial dusk settled outside the viewport, Syrah approached with a bowl of synth soup. Her hands were steady, expression impassive, but as she passed the bowl to Jace, their fingers brushed. Instantly, the psychic static spiked, no longer a gentle hum, but a surge of sensation, curiosity, calculation, and, beneath it all, a diffuse warmth that was not his own. He startled, nearly dropping the bowl. Their eyes met. 1,000 unsaid words crowded the space between them. Syrah's control faltered for the first time. Human thoughts were chaos, a tangled storm of memory, desire, and loss. She attempted to probe deeper, to isolate and analyze, but the feedback overwhelmed her. Suddenly she was awash in Jace's mind, flashes of his childhood beneath Terran's suns, the ache of old betrayals, the raw, unguarded longing that he felt for her. The force of it struck her like a current. She jerked back, breath quickened, crimson cheeks tinged with sudden color. Jace set the bowl aside, concern softening his features. "Syrah, are you—" She turned away sharply, retreating to the corner, heartbeat drumming in her ears, composure fractured. For several long moments, neither spoke. The next day, Jace was summoned by Envoy Rel, the Alliance's liaison, a man with the bearing of a judge and the patience of a fuse. In the sterile meeting chamber, Rel demanded updates, his voice clipped. "We need progress, Jace. The Dravari fleet is amassing at the border. This is not the time for cultural studies." Jace held his ground, his tone measured. "Without understanding the Varen psyche, any alliance will be brittle, prone to fracture under the first sign of strain." Rel's eyes narrowed. "Your assignment is to secure signatures, not to psychoanalyze our hosts. Get it done." The connection cut, leaving Jace in the static wash of an unresolved argument. Meanwhile, Syrah reported to her Varen elder via encrypted channel. The elder's visage, flickering and remote, radiated disappointment. "Progress is unsatisfactory. Do not let yourself be distracted by human surface chaos, Syrah. Your loyalty is to the Triad, not to fleeting attachments." When the call ended, Syrah stood alone in the silence, the weight of her duty pressing down, heavier than gravity. She could not reconcile the cold clarity of her orders with the sincerity she sensed in Jace, his thoughts a riot of hope and pain, his intentions honest to a fault. Later, restless, Jace found Syrah at the observation window, her profile outlined against the holographic rendering of the Varen system's 3 suns. The virtual orbs spun in their intricate dance, casting shifting patterns across her face. He stopped beside her, voice quiet. "You know the Song of the 3 Lights?" he asked. "It says, 'To find your way home, you must see with all 3 hearts, one for each sun.'" For a moment, Syrah did not move. Then she turned, gold eyes softer, the psychic static between them easing, dissolving into something gentle and sacred. The closeness was deeper than before, not just a sharing of space or duty, but a connection forged in the vulnerable language of meaning. For the first time, Syrah felt not like a servant or agent, but like someone searching for belonging. It unsettled her, and yet she did not step away. Suddenly a violent tremor shook the station. Alarms blared, a shrill cacophony slicing through the fragile quiet. Jace barely had time to register the sensation before a second jolt rattled the walls, the lights flickering with every violent pulse. Red indicators strobed in the corners of the cabin. Outside, the corridor lit up with the sickly flash of emergency strips, shadows sliding across the glass. Dravari ships were attacking. Syrah's reaction was pure instinct. She moved with the precision of a dancer, no wasted motion, as she darted to the control panel and slammed her palm against the emergency lock. The doors hissed shut. Translucent barriers shimmered into place. "Sealing bulkheads," she reported, her voice a blade's edge, focused but strained. Her hair whipped behind her as she whirled to scan the readings. "We must reach the command bridge." Jace was already at the console, fingers flying, trying to access the tactical net. The screen spat static at him, no signal. He slammed his fist down. The network's down. They've cut communications. His heart hammered. Another explosion rocked the sector, the sound hollow and close. The viewport spiderwebbed, a fracture zigzagging across its surface. A voice came over the intercom, crackling and panicked. All diplomatic personnel evacuate to secure Zone 3. Hull breach imminent! The message repeated, garbled by interference. A third blast, a plasma conduit bursting outside, shook the cabin. The hull groaned, the sound a living thing. Debris rained from above, the scent of burning insulation stung the air. In the chaos, a ceiling panel tore free, plummeting straight for Sierra. Jace moved without thinking, adrenaline short-circuiting hesitation. He lunged across the small space, grabbing Sierra and yanking her sideways. The panel crashed down where she had been, shattering against the floor in a spray of composite. They landed together, tangled in the narrow gap between the bed and the wall. His arms locked around her, shielding her body with his own. For a moment, everything else vanished. There was only her trembling beneath him, his face buried in her hair, the sound of her breath sharp and rapid. And then, the barrier between them, so carefully built, shattered. A psychic flood surged through Sierra, Jace's memories, his emotions, his protective instincts, all pouring into her. She was swept up in the raw storm of his humanity, glimpses of his childhood on Old Terra, the bitter cold and white-blue twilight of Europa's domes, the scars of betrayal, the guilt he carried, and the yawning loneliness that had followed him across the stars. Most of all, she felt his need to keep her safe, fierce, unyielding, the primal urge to protect at any cost. She reeled, eyes wide, unable to shield herself from the tidal wave of sensation. In return, Jace caught flashes from her, moments layered deep in her psyche, the ache of ancient sorrow, the rigid isolation of a mind trained for logic but starving for connection, the centuries-old loneliness of a guardian whose people were fading, light by light. Sierra's soul opened to him, vulnerable and bright. The connection was a mirror. Each saw the other's essence, undistorted, raw, and unmistakable. Somewhere the station's internal bulkheads groaned again, but in that heartbeat, the chaos faded. Only the two of them remained, exposed and vulnerable, their roles fallen away. Sierra's composure was gone. Jace saw her fear, not as a weakness, but as something achingly human. His hand brushed her cheek as they disentangled, rising together from the debris-strewn floor. "Are you hurt?" he asked, voice rough. Sierra shook her head, still breathing fast. "No, you saved me." He looked away, embarrassed by the intensity of what had just passed between them. "Couldn't let you get crushed by my ceiling panel. You'd never let me live it down." A ghost of a smile touched her lips, but her eyes remained haunted. "Your memories. I saw Europa. The ice. The loss." Jace hesitated, then nodded. "You saw everything. I saw you too, Sierra. All of you." For a moment, there was no pretense between them. No diplomat, no attendant. Only a man and a woman, stripped bare by disaster, each carrying wounds the other could finally see. The alarms pulsed again, pulsed. The station lurched, and the moment broke. "We have to move," Sierra said. "This section won't hold." Side by side, they picked their way through the battered corridors, ducking under sparking conduits and dodging falling debris. Their movement was wordless, instinctive. They pulled each other back from danger, lent strength when the other faltered. Old boundaries dissolved. They moved as survivors, partners bound by something deeper than orders or treaty. They reached the command bridge, a chamber half-lit, filled with smoke and the stench of burnt circuitry. Screens flickered, displaying tactical feeds crowded with red icons. Officers shouted into dead comms, hands darting across consoles. The main viewport showed the Dravari ships, sleek, predatory forms bristling with weaponry, circling like sharks. The Dravari channel opened, voice booming over the bridge. "This is Commander Varak of the Dravari Syndicate. Surrender your station and withdraw. This is your only warning. Resistance will be met with annihilation." Jace recognized the performance. He leaned close to Syrah, keeping his voice low. "They want to force the Varans to abandon the Alliance. This isn't about territory. It's sabotage." Before Syrah could answer, the Varan elder swept onto the bridge, his crimson robes streaked with ash. His gaze snapped to Jace. "You were supposed to prevent this. Human unpredictability has doomed us." He waved a dismissive hand, then turned to the bridge crew, issuing rapid commands in the Varan tongue. Syrah's jaw tightened, but she said nothing. Jace watched her, reading the tension in her shoulders, the flicker of gold in her eyes. Suddenly, the main display shifted. The tactical feed showed the true scale of the Dravari fleet, a wall of ships, more than the sensors had first revealed, massing for a killing blow. The bridge fell silent, the weight of impending defeat pressing on every soul present. The battle began with a thunderclap. Dravari weapons hammered the station's shields. Consoles erupted in sparks. A surge from the failing shields blew out a bank of controls. The Varan elder was caught in the blast, thrown backward. He struck the deck hard, blood welling from a wound at his temple. Syrah rushed to his side, hands glowing with blue-white Varan energy as she knelt. "He's dying," she projected to Jace, her voice a thread in his mind. "We're cut off. The Dravari jamming is blocking all coordination with the fleet. If we can't link with the core, we're lost." Jace dropped to one knee beside her. "What's the core?" She looked at him, fear and hope warring in her eyes. "The core link. It's a telepathic interface. Normally only Varan elders can access it. But the jamming, it's deadly to any single mind." The last who tried, their mind burned out. He remembered the raw surge of energy between them, how his chaotic thoughts had shielded her before. "What if we do it together?" "My mind. It's noise to you, isn't it? It protected you." She hesitated. "It could work, or we could both die." "We don't have a choice," he said softly, reaching for her hand. "Use me. Anchor yourself in my mind. I trust you." Syrah's breath shuddered. Around them, the bridge shook. Another impact. No time left. She squeezed his hand, the warmth of her skin grounding him. "Come with me," she said, voice trembling as she led him to the core console, a crystalline node pulsing with unstable light. They stood together, hands clasped, bodies pressed close. Her forehead touched his. She met his gaze, solemn and fierce. "You must not resist. Let go of everything. No barriers." He nodded, drawing a shuddering breath. "I'm ready." Her voice was only a whisper, but he felt it echo through his bones. "Then hold nothing back. I'll find you in the chaos." He obeyed, closing his eyes, letting every wall inside him fall away. Grief, guilt, hope, longing, all of it open to her. And together, they reached for the core, ready to stand as one against the darkness. The link was electric, a storm of logic and emotion colliding in the center of Jace's mind. He felt the vast, crystalline clarity of Syrah's consciousness, every thought structured with luminous precision. Yet beneath the mathematical elegance, he sensed her vulnerability, the ache of isolation that had colored every choice she'd made. At the same time, Syrah was swept up in the wild current of Jace's emotions, his tangled hopes and memories, his capacity for improvisation, and the fierce, unyielding urge to survive and protect. Together, they formed something neither had known alone, a unity that transcended training or instinct. The Dravari psychic assault hit them like a wall of fire. It crashed against their shared mind, pressing with malice and alien hunger. But Jace's thoughts, unpredictable as weather, scattered the assault. He threw up flashes of Terran city traffic, chaotic intersections, a ballet of honking horns and weaving scooters, then the memory of a jazz riff, impossible to anticipate, threading through the confusion. The Dravari's assault faltered. Sira caught his pattern and amplified it, translating emotion into logic, chaos into counterpoint. Together, they fought back, not with brute force, but with ingenuity. Let them chase what they cannot predict, Jace thought, his words tumbling through the link. Sira responded, her mental voice ringing like chimes. Show me, I will translate. In the mind space, Jace conjured memory after memory. The desperate improvisation of a street musician, the gut instinct of a pilot dodging through an asteroid belt, a childhood game of tag in a rain-slick alley. Sira seized these fragments and reshaped them, issuing commands to the Varen and human ships through the core. The fleets moved not as separate entities, but as a single living organism, dancing on the knife edge of improvisation and order. On the bridge, officers gasped as battle maps warped in real time. Human and Varen ships broke from established doctrine, splitting formations and weaving through Dravari fire with daring abandon. The Dravari hesitated, their tactics unraveling as they tried to predict maneuvers that made no sense to their logic-bound minds. Sira's calm directives, underpinned by Jace's intuition, sent allied fighters in looping, impossible patterns, sometimes doubling back, sometimes charging straight into the teeth of danger only to veer away at the last instant. The enemy flagship, bristling with psychic interference, tried to reassert control. Sira felt its presence, cold and calculating, searching for a weak spot. Jace flung up a memory of Europa's storms, winds that howled and shifted without warning, impossible to map. Sira amplified it, and the Dravari's next attack missed its mark, scattering harmlessly against the shields of the lead Varen cruiser. Through it all, Jace and Sira's minds remained fused, their awareness stretching across the station, out into the void where ships dodged and spun. He felt her confidence bloom, saw her ancient loneliness recede as she drew strength from his chaos. She felt his pain soften, his guilt tempered by purpose. Their partnership was a symphony, logic and intuition, discipline and improvisation, neither dominating, both essential. Suddenly, the Dravari line wavered. Their psychic link flickered with confusion, unable to anticipate the dance. Allied ships pressed the advantage, their movements unpredictable yet uncannily coordinated. The enemy flagship shuddered under focused fire and, at last, turned away, its escorts streaming after it in a desperate, ragged retreat. The jamming field collapsed. Psychic interference evaporated like mist in sunlight. The bond between Jace and Sira snapped, clean and sudden, as if a cord had been cut. He sagged, knees buckling, dragging Sira down with him. They collapsed together at the base of the core, both gasping, sweat slick and trembling, minds echoing with the final aftershocks of the battle. Medics rushed onto the bridge, voices urgent but distant, muffled by exhaustion. Jace blinked up at the ceiling, watching the patterns of light swirl behind his eyelids. He felt Sira's hand in his, her fingers still warm, her presence a fading echo. Her gold eyes fluttered open, meeting his, and in that glance he felt a surge of gratitude, fierce and bright, before the world slipped sideways and darkness claimed him. The bridge erupted with shouts of relief. Across the battered consoles, officers wept and embraced, scarcely able to believe what had happened. The impossible had become real. Against all odds, the Alliance had survived. Jace awoke in the medbay, weightless and hollow, every muscle limp with exhaustion. The lights were dim, the air tinged with the sharp tang of antiseptic. He turned his head and found the Varen elder beside him, the old man's face drawn but alive. "You did what we believed impossible," the elder murmured, his tone reverent. "Human chaos, once a flaw, has become our greatest strength." Jace managed a tired smile. I suppose that's one way to build an alliance. The elder inclined his head, a gesture of deep respect. The Dravari will remember this day, and so will we. From now on, Varen and human destinies are intertwined. He pressed a hand to Jace's shoulder, the touch surprisingly gentle, and then departed, leaving Jace alone with the hum of monitors and the rush of memory. Hours passed. Debriefings blurred together, questions about the battle, the link, the strange tactics that had turned the tide. Jace answered what he could, but his mind was always half elsewhere, searching for a presence he now missed as keenly as breath. At last, permission came. Jace rose, dressed in fresh uniform, and made his way to his new quarters granted to a hero, though he felt anything but. The door slid open, revealing Sira standing at the viewport, gazing out at the stars. She wore the flowing robes of a Varen envoy, dark fabric catching the light, the sigil of the Triad glimmering at her collar. She sensed him and turned. The silence between them was comfortable, soft, full of things neither needed to say. He crossed the room to her side, heart pounding in his chest. I thought I'd lost you, he said quietly. She smiled, the warmth in her gold eyes unmistakable. You found me. In the storm, you found me. He reached for her hand. Their fingers met, entwining with deliberate care. A gentle resonance pulsed through the contact, not the storm of before, but a subtler, deeper echo. It was a new pattern, not wholly logic, not wholly emotion, but something uniquely theirs. Will it always be like this? He asked, voice trembling with hope. She tilted her head, studying him as if seeing him for the first time. I do not know, but I want to find out, with you. They stood together, looking out into the dark, the stars scattered beyond the glass. Between them flowed a current neither could have predicted, gentle and sure. For the first time since Europa, Jace felt whole. 6 months later, Jace lived aboard the Varen starship Quietus, a vessel renowned for its tranquil corridors and contemplative hush. The ship moved through the cosmos like a thought drifting through a meditative mind. In every chamber, silence reigned, profound, intentional, broken only by the gentle hum of life support and the soft footfalls of its crew. For the Varens, this was the music of belonging. For Jace, the hush was a challenge. He sat cross-legged in a meditation alcove, eyes closed, trying to still the constant churn of his thoughts. The Varen practice of silent communion, shared presence, mind to mind, remained elusive. Where Sira and her kin floated in wordless clarity, Jace's mind pulsed with errant memories. The taste of rain on Europa, the warmth of Sira's hand, 100 Terran songs half remembered, and always an uncontainable affection for the woman at the center of his new universe. He cracked one eye open. Across the alcove, Sira sat in perfect stillness, the calm anchor to his inner storm. She raised an eyebrow, an amused glint in her gold eyes. Your thoughts are very loud today, she projected, her tone playful. He grinned, unable to help himself. Sorry. I was wondering what happened to my old mug, the blue one from Helios 9. She tilted her head, considering. It is currently behind your collection of mismatched socks. Jace laughed out loud, breaking the silence. You're cheating. You peeked. Sira's lips curved into a smile, her humor now undeniably tinged with humanity. You project your attachments with surprising intensity. The mug is, how did you once say, a comfort item? He shrugged, stretching his legs out and bumping her knee. You're getting too good at this, Sira. Next thing I know, you'll be hoarding coffee beans and learning Terran sarcasm. She pretended to consider it, voice dry. I have already mastered sarcasm. I practice daily by listening to your negotiations. Their quarters reflected the slow dance of their lives, his scatter of books and oddments softening the sharp lines of Veyron minimalism, her curated artifacts lending order to his chaos. It was a living negotiation, a balance of warmth and space, laughter and stillness. Jace moved to the small galley unit and began the ritual of brewing coffee, real Terran coffee, a rarity among the stars. He ground the beans by hand, relishing the sound and scent. Syrah watched with quiet fascination, her every movement measured but now softened by the intimacy of shared routine. He handed her a steaming mug. She took it, inhaled deeply, then sipped. She made a face, but a delighted one. Bold, she pronounced, rolling the word around as if tasting it again. Discordant. Very human. He leaned against the counter, arms folded, watching her. That's your new thing, describing everything as a musical interval. It helps me understand your world, she replied, eyes sparkling. Your coffee is a minor seventh, unresolved, yet compelling. He laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet. I'll take that as a compliment. The psychic resonance between them was gentle now, a subtle undercurrent of affection and trust. The ship's vast silence, once oppressive, had become peace, a space made sacred by the presence of another. But the world outside their quarters was anything but peaceful. Jace now stood at the center of strategic talks between Veyron and human leadership, his reputation sealed by the impossible victory against the Dravari. The Quietus hosted high councils in its grand convergence chamber, the space filled with the shifting glow of holotables and the low murmur of translation devices. The Dravari, their world dying by the day, had retreated only to regroup. Now, intelligence revealed they were preparing for a final, desperate stand. The logical response, voiced by Veyron strategists and echoed by hard-eyed human commanders, was annihilation, striking before the Dravari could threaten the fragile alliance. The chamber pulsed with tension. Jace stood, hands steady on the table, Syrah at his side. He waited for the debate to reach its fevered pitch, then spoke into the gathering storm. We're standing on the edge of another extinction, he said quietly. The Dravari are not monsters. They're desperate. If we destroy them, we inherit their fear. But what if we offer them something else? Not death, but a future. A new home. A stunned silence greeted his words. The Veyron strategist, Elder Menth, blinked in disbelief. You propose what? Relocation? Integration? They have been our enemies for generations. Jace nodded, voice unwavering. Yes, they've known only war, only scarcity. If we give them a chance to survive, we turn enemies into partners. We end the cycle. We build something greater than fear. The human admiral bristled. And if they turn on us the moment their strength returns? Jace met the admiral's gaze, steady and calm. That's the risk. But we've seen what happens when we trust only in force. Syrah and I survived because we trusted in something larger than doctrine, each other. Syrah spoke then, her words carrying the weight of two worlds. We call it the Jace-Syrah principle, the union of human empathy and Veyron logic. Alone, each is incomplete. Together, we can reshape what it means to lead. Her presence, robed, serene, yet undeniably changed by love and hope, commanded attention. The elders murmured, some skeptical, others quietly moved. Elder Menth looked from Syrah to Jace. Hope is not a strategy. Jace smiled softly. It's the only strategy that creates something new. The Dravari are not a plague. They are a people, on the edge. If we offer them a lifeline, we might save ourselves as well. The debate raged. The human commanders brought up risks and security. The Veyron elders warned of old betrayals, scars that ran deeper than memory. But Syrah stood beside Jace, her psychic presence a steadying warmth, amplifying his intent. At last, the Elder Council fell into contemplative silence, minds reaching for consensus. Afterward, In the hush of the observation deck, Sira leaned against him, her head on his shoulder. "You are changing us," she said. "I can feel the fear, but also the possibility. The elders will not decide quickly." But they have never heard these words before. He brushed a strand of her hair aside. "And you? Do you believe it's possible?" She met his gaze, her gold eyes bright with conviction. "I believe in you. That is enough." He drew her close, breathing in the subtle mineral scent that still lingered in her hair. The stars beyond the glass seemed closer, the silence around them alive with hope. Elsewhere, the council chamber echoed with uncertainty. The elders debated long into the artificial night. Jace's approach, rooted in hope and a willingness to risk vulnerability, had shifted something fundamental. The memory of his victory, human chaos transformed into strength, hung over every argument. The future, once rigidly defined by old logic, now shimmered with uncertainty and promise. In the days that followed, human and Varen diplomats conferred in urgent whispered sessions. Trust was slow to grow, but Jace's vision could not be unspoken. He had given them an alternative to annihilation, creation. One evening, as Quietus sailed silently between the stars, Jace brewed coffee for Sira once more. She sipped, then smiled, a true human smile. "Major 7th," she said. "A little discord, a lot of hope." He grinned, warmth blooming in his chest. "That's us, isn't it?" She nodded, her hand finding his. "Yes, Jace, that's us." The future was shifting, and for the first time in generations, both human and Varen hearts beat in time with possibility. Back in their quarters, Jace felt the weight of his proposal settle over him like the hush before a storm. The conversation with the elders echoed in his mind, visions of the future he had dared to offer, a future where enemies became partners and hope redefined possibility. But now, with the adrenaline faded, doubt crept in. Was it too much to ask? Was he leading both species into another kind of ruin? He sat on the low couch, elbows on knees, staring at the line where soft Terran rug met the clean, luminous tiles Sira favored. His heart thudded in a rhythm as old as fear. The silence stretched, not the tranquil Varen quiet of meditation, but the taut hush of a mind circling its own shadows. Sira entered without a sound, the door whispering closed behind her. She crossed to him and sat, folding herself beside him with characteristic grace. The psychic resonance between them, once tentative and overwhelming, had become an ever-present comfort, a background hum that steadied his breath. She reached out, pressing her palm to his forearm. Warmth flowed from her touch, and he felt her calm settle over his anxiety, soothing, grounding. "You are afraid," she said softly, not as accusation, but as recognition. Jace released a shaky breath, running a hand through his hair. "I keep thinking, what if I'm wrong? What if this is just another beautiful idea that ends in disaster?" His voice was raw, stripped of all diplomatic armor. Sira's psychic presence became more focused, tender. "Doubt is not weakness, Jace. It is the shadow of hope. Without hope, there is nothing to doubt." Her words wove through his mind, dispelling some of the chill. He glanced at her, searching her face. "How can you be so sure? Your people have centuries of logic, caution." She interrupted, tracing a gentle line down the length of his palm. Her touch was electric, deliberate. "There is something I need you to understand. During our meld, during the core link, I found a memory, ancient and hidden, not just in me, but in all Varens." Her eyes glimmered gold, vulnerable and resolute. "Our capacity for emotion was never lost. It was only dormant, buried beneath layers of tradition, of fear. Your heart, your passion, woke something in me I did not believe possible." Jace swallowed, the air thick between them. "Sira, She pressed a finger to his lips, shaking her head. "Let me say this. What we share is not an accident, not a deviation. It is a return. You have shown me, shown my people, that connection is not a threat to reason, but its complement. That love is not weakness, but a source of strength. Her confession vibrated in the space between them, not just personal, but transformative. For the first time, Jace saw himself not only as her partner, but as a catalyst for something larger, a new beginning for an entire people. The realization stole his breath. He cupped her face in his hands, fingers sliding along the elegant lines of her jaw. Her skin was warm, her pulse steady beneath his touch. He leaned in, their foreheads touching, the psychic resonance swelling, no longer a torrent, but a chosen embrace. She met his gaze, eyes wide and luminous. "Stay with me, in this moment. Let us choose this, together." He answered not with words, but with his lips, brushing softly against hers. Their kiss was a homecoming, not conquest, a return to a place neither had known, but both had always longed for. Through the contact, their minds intertwined, desire and trust weaving a tapestry that held them both. Later, wrapped together beneath a quilt that smelled faintly of Terran cedar and Veyron minerals, they let the world outside their quarters fade. The psychic connection between them pulsed with contentment, the gentle afterglow of shared vulnerability. Jace lay on his back, arm around Syrah, her head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat as if it were the most precious sound in the universe. He closed his eyes, opening a memory for her, a summer afternoon on Terra, chasing dragonflies through golden grass, the laughter of a child unburdened by history or expectation. Syrah gasped softly, awash in the sensation. "Such wonder," she whispered. "I never knew the world could feel so immediate." He smiled, feeling her joy like sunlight. "It's always there, beneath the surface. Even in pain, there's light." She lifted herself on one elbow, gold eyes searching his. "You carry it with you. Even now." He brushed her hair back, gentle. "So do you, Syrah. You just needed someone to remind you." She hesitated, then shared a memory in return. The hush of the Veyron homeworld before dawn, the crystalline air shimmering as the three suns rose, her people gathering in silence, feeling the unity of 1,000 minds. "We used to believe that oneness meant erasing difference. Now I know. True unity is found in sharing what is unique." He nodded, feeling her certainty, the hope blooming between them. The psychic bond was no longer accidental, but intentional, an agreement, a vow. Syrah shifted, her voice low, full of quiet excitement. "There is more. While you slept, the Alliance reached a decision. Inspired by your vision of renewal, they have approved a joint project. Humans and Veyrons, together, we will build a new world, not just an alliance, but a home for both species." Jace sat up, awe and disbelief warring in his expression. "A new world? Not just a treaty? An actual place?" She smiled, radiant. "A garden, Jace. A beginning. They are calling it the Dawn Project." He drew her into his arms, laughter and tears mingling in his voice. "We did it. You did it." She held him close, her psychic touch full of pride and love. "No, Jace. We did this together." Our love was the proof they needed that something new could exist. They lay together, dreaming aloud, imagining cities that sang with the fusion of Terran and Veyron cultures, children who would know both logic and wonder, rituals that blended meditation and music and laughter. Jace described tree-lined parks and open markets. Syrah imagined sanctuaries where minds could commune in joyful diversity. "Will it be easy?" he asked softly. She shook her head, smiling. "Nothing worthwhile ever is, but it will be real." He pressed his lips to her forehead, feeling the promise in her touch and in her thoughts. I want to build it with you, she answered with certainty, their minds and bodies resonating in perfect harmony. And I with you, Jace. In that quiet, luminous chamber, the future was no longer an abstraction. It was a garden waiting to be tended, a world seeded by trust, watered by hope, nurtured by the courage to love. Their union was not just a bridge between two souls, but the first root of a new era, entwining the destinies of both species for all the days to come. The Alliance's bold plan unfolded with the kind of audacity that had once seemed impossible. Human and Veyron fleets, united by new trust, emerged from the darkness around the Dravari home system, not in a pincer of annihilation, but as a protective ring. Warships and cruisers shimmered in orbit, their weapons powered down, beacons blazing with signals of parley rather than conquest. Across 1,000 channels, the same message echoed: you are not to be destroyed, but offered survival. On the bridge of the Veyron flagship, Quietus, Jace, and Syrah stood shoulder to shoulder before the primary holotable. The Dravari response was immediate, defensive, desperate, and laced with suspicion. For generations, they had known only siege and starvation. This sudden reversal, a lifeline instead of a blade, left their leaders stunned and wary. Syrah monitored the comms, translating the Dravari language's layered, echoing frequencies into concise reports. Jace, beside her, studied the streams of body language on the projected feeds, the tension in coiling arms, the flicker of black eyes, the subtle defensive curls of their prehensile digits. Every detail mattered now. The Dravari fleet is powering weapons, but not targeting, Syrah reported. Her voice, once chilly with protocol, was now warm with confidence. They're waiting for us to strike first, Jace murmured. They can't believe this is real. A human admiral's voice crackled through the link. Ready to respond, envoy. On your word. Jace shook his head. Maintain position. No sudden moves. He glanced at Syrah, their private connection humming in the background. This is the moment. They have to choose fear or hope. Negotiations began, tense as the thin skin of a drum. The Dravari High Speaker, a proud matriarch named Lirsha, appeared on the central display, her features gaunt, eyes ringed with exhaustion and suspicion. Explain this mercy, Lirsha demanded, voice edged with bitterness. Is it surrender disguised as charity? Jace met her gaze, drawing on every lesson of empathy he had learned. No, it's an offer of partnership. Your world is dying. We want to help you survive. By relocating your people, giving you a new home, not as slaves, not as wards, as equals. Lirsha's eyes narrowed. And why would the Veyron support such madness? Syrah stepped forward, her presence radiating assurance. Because logic without compassion leads to extinction. For all of us. We have learned to value both. My people and the humans are not the same, but together, we are more than either alone. A ripple of surprise flickered across Lirsha's features. You speak as if you are one. Jace smiled. In many ways, we are. The proof of the Veyron-human bond, once accidental and dangerous, now shifted the balance. Syrah and Jace, recognized by both sides as architects of this new paradigm, became living evidence. Chaos fused with logic, a harmony that transcended centuries of war. Days of negotiation followed. There were threats and posturing, desperate demands and long silences. But the Dravari were dying, and the alternative, the slow suffocation of their species, grew more intolerable with each hour. Syrah and Jace, acting as envoys, moved between councils, translating not just words but intentions. Their psychic connection, honed and intentional, became a tool for diplomacy, letting them sense shifts in mood and subtle currents of fear or hope. At night, when the work was done, they returned to their quarters. The silence of the Veyron ship, once alien and cold, had become their sanctuary. Jace brewed coffee, savoring the ritual as Syrah arranged star charts, her fingers brushing his as she passed. Their daily rhythm blended his quirks, leaving Terran books open on the wrong page, humming off-key tunes, with her logic, her precise order bringing clarity to chaos. "Did you hide the navigation stylus again?" Syrah asked one evening, mock accusation coloring her tone. Jace grinned, tossing it to her. "You always find it. I think you're psychic." She rolled her eyes but smiled, her affection clear even without words. Their connection, both psychic and physical, became a constant source of strength. Each day, a reaffirmation of the choice they had made. In private, Syrah sometimes marveled at the change within herself. "We were taught that emotion was a distraction, a dilution of purpose," she admitted one night, curled against Jace as the ship glided through a nebula. "But now, with you, I see patterns everywhere. Not just logic, possibility, hope." Jace traced a finger along her cheek. "Maybe that's all life is, a pattern we make together." Their partnership shaped the birth of a new world. The Alliance selected a system, 3 suns orbiting a fertile planet, its surface untouched by war. Veyron architects designed cities of glass and crystal, harmonizing with the land. Human engineers proposed green corridors, living spaces brimming with art and invention. Syrah and Jace spent long hours in planning chambers, their minds working in concert, each suggestion enriched by the other's perspective. "We should blend the cultures," Jace said, sketching an amphitheater that curved like a Veyron memory hall, but open to the sky in Terran fashion. Syrah nodded. "And establish shared sanctuaries, places for meditation and music, places to remember where we began." They drafted blueprints not only for structures, but for society itself. Councils balanced between logic and empathy, schools that taught both mathematics and the stories that gave numbers meaning. The new world would be a living symbol, creation over destruction, hope over fear. The Dravari, at first, watched with skepticism, but as transports ferried them to their new home, they witnessed the genuine collaboration unfolding before them. Children of all 3 species played in shared gardens. Elders debated, sometimes fiercely, but always with the promise of a future. Lirsha, once their fiercest critic, became a cautious advocate, her voice lending credibility to the project. As weeks passed, the Quietus became the command center, and, for Syrah and Jace, a true home. Their relationship flourished in the interstices of duty, a shared glance during a fractious meeting, a touch beneath the table, laughter echoing down silent halls. Jace's relentless curiosity and Syrah's steady logic no longer clashed, but wove together, each strengthening the other. One night, as nebulae spun luminous patterns outside the viewport, they stood side by side in the observation bay. Syrah rested her hand atop Jace's, her touch grounding and electric. "Do you see it?" she asked, nodding toward the swirl of light. "The patterns? They are not just mathematical now. I see the chaos too, the possibility. It feels alive." Jace smiled, feeling the truth in her words. "You taught me to see the patterns. I taught you to feel the hope in them." She leaned into him, her head on his shoulder, and together they watched the galaxies dance. The silence was no longer emptiness, but the quiet of belonging. 2 souls, once separated by logic and chaos, now joined in something stronger. For the first time, Jace felt at home, not just in his own skin, but in the universe itself. He saw a future not merely of peace, but of creation, a world built by their hands, their dreams, and the love that had rewritten the story of 2 civilizations. Together, Syrah and Jace looked out at the vast unfolding night, partners not only in diplomacy, but in the ongoing act of creation, the living promise of all that could be. That's the end of the story. You can leave us a tip or become a channel member. This greatly helps our team improve the quality of our videos. You can send a tip using the Super Thanks button right below the video. We truly appreciate each and every one of you who has subscribed and supported us. Please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and write in the comments what you liked most about this story. Our team will be very grateful to you. You can find even more fascinating stories on our channel. See you in the next video.